In real estate, most agents spend a whole decade chasing what our guests today accomplish in just 2 years. Matt Delcambre continues to defy and exceed expectations. His journey is proof that with the right systems, discipline, and mindset, extraordinary growth is possible. From newly married and buying his first home to building a thriving business and growing his family, Matt mastered the balance between ambition and purpose. In this episode, we're going to unpack the habits, the systems, and the mindset that turn potential into performance. This is Real Talk with Jim Keaty, and today we're talking about what is possible when you go all in. All right, Mr. Matthew Delcambre, it's been another year, so 24 months total. We're now actually in the 25th month since you started Keaty Real Estate, and wanted to do a check-in and an update. So before we get started, though, let's talk about, for those who don't know who you are, and this is the first time they're tuning in, tell me a little bit about your history, who you are, and how the last 24 months was.
Well, my name is Matthew Delcambre. Graduated college, 28 months ago. Got my license, and first job started out, came here to Keaty Real Estate. And the last 24 months working here has been absolutely amazing. Couldn't imagine doing another career path or going somewhere else for sure.
So 24 months ago, or 28 months ago, you were in college.
Yep, in college playing baseball. Graduated in, I think, May or June.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so for those of you guys who don't know Matt, we did your first full year in the business. We did a podcast last year. It was actually last September. And we went over everything that you accomplished in the first year. And now we're going to be talking about, okay, now it's been 24 months, mostly because, one of the things that we do really well here is, we can condense a 10-year career into 24 months. And you're a perfect example to go over some of these numbers in the last 24 months. You've closed 138 transactions and with a volume of over $32 million, gross commission income over $1 million in 24 months. You have 15 pendings today, and you currently have 16 actives. So that's a total of $10 million that you currently have either in contract, in pending, and listed. So congratulations on that, first of all. But on top of that, you've also purchased 19 investment doors.
Yep.
And so you now are a real estate investor, 24 months. I would say you've done more than what most people can do in 10 years. And so kudos to you. I'm sure it was really easy.
Yeah, that's what everybody thinks.
And I also want to say, this isn't something you didn't have handouts. I mean, besides being on our team, majority of your deals are coming from the leads in our system. At least they were originally. But let's talk about that because, you've accomplished so much, and I really want to dive into it because there's a lot of people wondering, okay, well, how does somebody get out of college and within 2 years make over $1 million in commission? So let's start from the beginning. What would you tell yourself 28 months from when you graduated college? Did you think it was going to be like this?
Oh, well, 28 months ago, I didn't even know I was going to get into real estate. Besides the investing side, like I've said, I just kind of read books on how to avoid taxes and how to invest in a fruitful way, and it was always real estate. So that was really the only reason that I ended up getting my license in the first place.
And I've got a lot of questions. I'm writing down notes too as we're talking for myself, but I do want to get back to taxes because that's a great strategy. And so you educated yourself. You were an athlete. You played baseball in college. You think that had something to do with being competitive and wanting to win, I guess?
Yeah, definitely to an extent. I mean, I'm super, super competitive. I want to be the best and I want to win at whatever I do. That is a certain aspect of it. But, you have a 40-man roster in a college baseball team, and there's maybe 2 or 3 guys that are, natured of that sort. And those are usually, you're kind of your team leaders and the guys that, stand out usually. But, I'm kind of lost for words. You have to cut that.
Yeah.
Tommy.
Well, Yeah, he'll cut it all. That's all good. But so being in sports in college definitely had a. I mean, I could tell you're competitive,
Mhm.
but you're quiet competitive. You're not a big celebrator. It doesn't seem like.
Yeah. Just even today, I always feel like I'm behind. I just always feel like I'm behind, like, and so much to do and need so much more. And it just it's a blessing and a curse to feel like that. It really is. And I'm sure you feel the same way that, you may have all this going and you're successful and all that, but at the same time, you just feel like you're just behind. You're chasing something, you're trying to get something, and, you have the goals. And then once you reach those goals, you have new goals at that point, and now you're starting on, something else. And it just feels like it never ends. I mean, I've only been in it for 2 years, but like I said, I'm sure you have that same feeling even today.
Well, and going back 2 years ago, like obviously you didn't know you were getting in real estate. You studied a lot. You got into it. And when you joined Keaty Real Estate, we gave you a desk, we gave you a phone, we trained you. And what's really amazing is, anyone can actually do it, but very few do, right? So
Yeah.
what is the difference? Why were you so successful in following a strategy that actually was to win?
I mean, it's a thing of discipline and tenacity. It's very rare for somebody to be consistently disciplined and do the same things that they need to do every day. Everyone says that they'll do them and they want to do them and they want to make this amount of money, but nobody actually really does it. It's very rare. I have people all the time that are my age that they kind of see what I'm doing in real estate, and they want to do it, and they come and they sit down and they talk, and it's an exciting conversation, because it is doable. But once they realize what it entails and how much work and the risk of being a commission paid only, like if you don't work and you don't make things happen, you're not making any money. They usually end up staying in their oil field job or whatever they're doing at that time, making decent money because it's comfortable and there's not really a risk associated with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know that most people in sales, that don't end up making or don't thrive are the ones that would actually work harder for somebody else than they would for themselves. If they just put that same mentality of like, I got to go to work 8 to 5 and I got to do certain things and I have to complete certain things before the end of the day, that, it's easier I always say we're our worst employees,
Yeah.
because it's your business, right? This is you're part of our team and you're part of Keaty Real Estate umbrella, but everyone in here is running their own business. You get to decide when to come. And that goes back down to the discipline, which I want to talk about. It's not necessarily discipline to win. It's also discipline to lose enough, right? I mean, I know the numbers, but give the audience an idea of like, how many no's do you get in a normal day?
I mean, it's constant no's, but it's very easy to convert a no. Once you get to the point of you've talked to so many people and you understand what you're doing so well, there really isn't a question you can't answer. Now, there are some people that their no actually means no, but that is rare. I'll call people and talk to them all the time. They might have talked to a realtor an hour ago, and I'm not interested in buying a house. Okay. And then when I call them, I'm not interested in buying a house. Okay. But if you did, where would you buy one? And then I'm not interested in buying a house. Okay. But what's your timeline on? We actually want to move in 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a pretty quick timeline, and then before that, you got them like that. And then you follow up with them and then they're in your office. And then all of a sudden you're looking at houses.
Yeah. No, well, and what's interesting is a lot of people feel like, that phone is 1,000 pounds and they know they're worried about getting the nose, and they get so infatuated with how hard it is to convert them. But if you're more worried about the value, which I see you do on the phone all the time, actually, last night I was on your phone on your phone list by accident, and you called me, and your script was right on. And it's just about trying to find out what the value is for that client and providing value. And it's not a sales call. It's
100%. Like you said, script. I don't use a script when you first start. it's definitely good to, have something to go off of. But as you get into it, that script's only going to work for a certain amount of people. It gets to the point to where, hey, how are you doing? I work here. You signed up on the website, or you're looking at houses or whatever. What do you need? And the usual answer is no. And you have to dig in and find out why that no is. And if you kind of base everything off of a script, it's really tough to pull that no into a yes. Whereas if you actually just have a conversation with them and you're knowledgeable about what you're doing, then it's very easy to convert somebody.
Yeah. And you saying you're not using a script, but your script.
It's in my head.
At first, though, you were literally reading a script, which was saying the same thing, but it feels weird because you haven't internalized it, right?
Yeah, you got to make it your own and talk how you talk, and, talk like a normal person and just have a conversation. An old man that's been in his house for 20 years is not the same person that's buying their first house, or somebody that has a house and they're looking to maybe invest and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, so to get 138 closings in 24 months, and you guys also got to give them credit, because when you first get here, you spend about 3 to 4 months training and also generating appointments to have those closings. So your first year, even though you've been here 24 months, it's really only been 20 months of selling and closing. So that's a phenomenal number. And I know a lot of people are wondering, like, what's it going to take, or what does it take to actually generate those appointments?
There's no number in mind. People set goals, in my opinion. You have to set a goal, some people, but for me, there was no goal. It was just, how many can I get until I'm tired? And I wouldn't even keep track, and just get the appointment and put it on my calendar and on to the next person. And goal wise, it's just, like I said, if you have something set and you want to make 3 appointments that day, and you make the 3 at noon, why are you going home?
Right.
There's more to be there. It's early mornings, late nights, nonstop weekends.
Yeah. Well, and I remember we have our business plan, which we set up for you, and we said, well, how many days do you want to work? You're like, I'm working 7 days a week, 350 days a year at first. And during this process, you built a business, you built a pipeline, you've gotten married, you've had a baby, you've got a lot of personal things going on. You're a golfer. You like to, you like to have a little bit of fun, but you also are able to put that in perspective, because I see you here when I'm leaving. You're working early and you're working late. What are you doing in a normal day to get this done?
I wake up, and it just depends. If I have a showing early in the morning, that's the first thing I do. But, at the end of the day, it's just touching base with my leads, my clients, depending on where we are. When you have 30 things under contract or listed, it's a lot of people you have to talk to every day, especially the ones that are under contract, first-time buyers, investors, numbers, inspections. All of those things have to be done every day. So that does take your time, but as many as I close, I may have an inspection in the morning and then a showing. Well, I'm coming right back here and I'm prospecting. Right. I'm getting more leads, and I'm just on and on and on. Whether I'm at the point to where I could stop right now and work 30 hours a week and still make, $20,000-$25,000 a month off of my repeat business and my referrals. But I'm trying to, go above and beyond that. So I continue to prospect, continue to get new leads, continue to get new clients, and it's been fruitful for me.
And I want to talk about that a little bit, because like engagement, first thing is you need to have people to engage with that are, we call them cold leads sometimes, but they're literally coming to a real estate website. Mm-hmm. So, I put it in perspective for most people. I can't remember when I went into a store and the salesperson says, how can I help you? And I always say, I'm just looking. That's like the first no you get up, even when, wait, why am I in the store? Obviously there's a reason that you're there. Yeah. So it's interesting that, it's hard for a lot of people to get over that first objection, which happens usually in the first 15 seconds.
Yeah, usually when you call them and you introduce yourself, I'm just looking. Okay, what are you just looking for?
Right, exactly.
It really is that easy.
It's that easy, but it's pretty hard, because there's so much rejection, especially at first when you're making Literally, I think you did 1,000 calls a week for the first 4 weeks.
Oh yeah, definitely a good bit more than that. It was just nonstop. At that point, I don't really have the time to do that right now, but I still try to.
Right. And let's talk about the evolution of that though, right? So in your first 12 months, your first, like, the first thing you're doing is trying to get an appointment every day, right?
Of course.
And how many calls do you think it took you to get to 10 appointments?
And it just depends on the day. I'm pretty good at setting an appointment. So you mean I've had 25 calls for 10 appointments, and I've had 1,000 calls for 10 appointments. It really just depends on the day, and we all feel different every day. So, if I'm, not feeling the best, maybe I'm not talking the best, or I just don't feel like doing it, it might be a little bit harder to set an appointment. The leads may be a little bit colder that day or whatever, but at the end of the day, you're still putting the time in. Every time you put that time in, you get more experience, you get more knowledge, you get more wisdom on what you're talking about. That just makes it easier to overcome objections.
And a pipeline.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you first start, I wanted to bring up this. I mean, your spoke to ratio, I know when you start is, as for those of you guys who don't know, a spoke to ratio is how many people do you actually have to call to actually talk to somebody, is typically your first month or two, it's like 8%. Because some of the calls and some of the numbers are wrong, or it's Beyonce on the other end.
Yeah.
What do you say when somebody says, hey, I'm like, a lead literally comes in, it says Beyonce or Jay-Z or Santa Claus?
Yeah, get all kinds of stupid stuff, I actually had one last night. It was like that, and we have an appointment on Friday, but he put his name as, like, I don't remember, some video game name, and it was like BB Coco. That's what it was. And, I said that in kind of a joking manner, like, hey, what's up? And he starts laughing immediately, and he's like, hey, that's not my name. My name is whatever. That's what I use on PlayStation. And then, kind of get into it. But at the end of the day, now he's coming Friday, to come talk to me.
Yeah. So that doesn't bother you at all. You just pound through it. When a lot of people will see that and they'll be like, oh, well, I'm going to go to the next person.
Oh, no, if you answer the phone, I'm talking to you.
Yeah. That's awesome. And but what I really wanted to bring up is your spoke to ratio goes from, and I know your numbers, so it goes from 8%, and now you're at a 28% spoke to ratio, because you've talked to so many people, and the majority of the people after 24 months that are in your system. Let me ask you that. How many people are in your system right now?
About 3,500.
3,500 leads that you've nurtured through that pipeline. And now those people, you have the right phone numbers. So out of 3,500, if you make 100 calls, you're going to talk to about 28 of those people versus 8 of those people.
Yeah, probably more.
Probably more than that.
Yeah.
Because they know you, they have your number, they know you know them. And for that, that's exactly what should be happening if you're doing it consistent, right? But if you call a bunch of people and then you stop, then you try to call them back 6 months later, they have no idea who you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the follow-up. And I sat next to Tyler Allred and Noah, and, I was messing around saying it last night. Like, I'm on the phone with somebody, and they're not interested in buying for 2 years, but we are looking at buying. I'll put them in my system, and I'm going to call them in 2 months, see how they're looking, if they need anything, again in 2 months, again a month later, again a month later. And that's my buyer. At that point, no, they're not using anybody else.
Yeah. And is it because you're just a great talker?
I mean, I wouldn't even say that. I mean, you know me well. I'm not, when you first started Keaty, we have to have those meetings every month, I believe it is. And every month you would tell me the same thing, you're doing great, this and that, but, you're not good at, conversating, talking to people, maybe not random leads, but just, I'm blunt. And I'm honest, and I'm like that on the phone, and it's the same. And people think you have to be the salesman and sell stuff, but at the end of the day, we're not really selling anything. We're bringing value and helping people invest and helping people make a good purchases if there's first home, or if they're bought a few homes, you're helping them sell for top dollar and all that stuff. And it's really important to be really invested in this and be an expert at what you're doing to help convert those things.
Well, and you said something there. You're not really selling anything. Expand on that.
You were selling yourself, as an agent. You're
selling your value. Your
knowledge. Exactly. My knowledge, my wisdom, and what I bring to the table is what I'm selling. I'm not selling you a house, or if you're selling their house, you're selling yourself to get that house listed, and that's how you make your money. But it's just like I said, I think Jordan Belfort said it, like, you have to be an absolute expert. There's no question you can ask me at this point in real estate that I don't have the answer to, whether it's first time home buyer or an investor or somebody that's on their sixth house and it's $1 million house. It doesn't matter. I have the experience to be able to have that discussion with them and know what I'm talking about, to where when they talk to me, there's a no-brainer on who they're going to call when they're ready to buy or sell something.
Right. Yeah. And, you're not a used car salesman trying to get rid of some inventory. You're actually providing guidance more than selling, right?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I have clients who have 300 properties and they had multiple agents, and I'm their only guy now. I have guys that have no properties and we've built to 9, 10, 11, 12 properties because they came to me at first like, I'm making good money. Me and my wife have a house or whatever. We have all this cash just sitting here. What can we do with it? They come talk to you, and I'm so obsessed with real estate and the investing side of things, and it brings so much value to anyone's life that by the time we're done having that conversation, they're excited and they're ready to pull the trigger. And I'm not gonna let anyone pull the trigger on something that I wouldn't myself. And once you build that trust, I mean, it gets to the point where I have this huge clientele of investors where if something comes up, all I have to do is call them and say, hey, we need to write an offer, and 5 minutes later, I'm writing an offer on it.
Right.
Multifamily wise and investment wise, most of anything that comes up on the MLS that is worth value, I'm usually the person that has it under contract.
Yeah, and not only that though, I do want to talk about that a little bit, because not every house you put under contract actually closes, right?
Oh, no.
Right. So like, it's kind of like baseball, you can't hit a home run if you're only batting 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
You have to, I don't even know the stats, so that you have to go to the bat a lot of times. So you have a really high hit ratio, right?
Yeah. Baseball prepares you for the nose because it's a constant game of failure. And what I always say is, everyone, oh, the real world's going to knock you out. It's going to be so tough. But, I loved baseball so much. I dedicated so much time to it. And it never loves you back. And any baseball player knows that the game never loves you back, even if you're the best in the world. The game does not love you back. And being prepared for just constant failures and stuff, it makes the nose and the failed deals and all that stuff, just kind of a brush off the shoulder and on to the next.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like if you're going for no sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many no's can I get today to get to that yes?
I mean, honestly, I think I called 300 people last night, Jim. I don't think I got one yes, and I got like 10 clients.
Yeah. And what you mean by that is you're nurturing them now.
Yeah, every single one of them.
You didn't get an appointment, but out of 300 people, you got 10 potential clients.
Exactly, yeah.
And where these clients, I mean, at first, I know now you're building a sphere and you've got a pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
But the first 12 months, I mean, where all these, like, if I was a new agent, who am I calling?
Just cold calls, random leads, all that good stuff. I had 75 closings last year. I think maybe 5 or 6 of them were people that I knew before real estate.
Yeah.
The rest of them are just cold calls. And now at this point, like I said, I'm getting a lot of referrals. I'm getting a lot of repeat business because, when you take care of people and you're honest and you do the job right, then somebody mentions they're buying a house next to them. They're throwing them your information. You have to call this person. You need to talk to this guy, especially with investors, anybody that's fruitful in investing, they usually have, a decent amount of money. Well, so many times I talk to investors and they have 2, 3 agents and they don't like any of them. And, when I'm done talking to them or we do our first deal after that, I'm their only agent because they trust me and they like me. And, I've killed deals, where I'm going to make very good money and, we're not buying this. Like, if you buy this, it's a stupid purchase. And those things build up trust to the point to where, like I said, something comes on the market, I can make a phone call or 2 and I'm going to have it under contract in an hour because I'm telling this guy, hey, you need to buy this, when the 3 times before I said, no, we're not buying that. And then that comes up, then they really trust you.
Right. So building trust is an important part.
Oh, very.
And, you said you're calling leads, and the leads are coming from the website, and we have 100 and, how many do we have right now?
A lot.
100, over 120,000.
Yeah.
people who've been to our site, and we got another 1,000 that come every day. That's not for everybody, right? But it's about, there's different pathways and there's different pillars of business, and that's just one. And I get people all the time that say, well, I don't want to call those leads. That's fine, but you got to call somebody.
Yeah. I mean, when I first started, my bread and butter was, I had already called all of your leads that were, on the website in the last week, 2 weeks, month. Well, there's no more leads to call. So where do you go? You have a section under your leads that are trash and archive. And honestly, that's probably where I got most of my leads. There's these dead leads that no one's called or touched in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. They haven't been on the website,
and all of a sudden they pop on.
Even if they're not on, Jim. Honestly, like I can't tell you how many leads I've had under trash in your platform who you talk to, and then they're under contract in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So what is the difference? Why? How are you doing that? You think it's timing, or just enough a repetition? Eventually, you're talking to somebody that's ready.
Yeah, I mean, there's that, and then there's a part of it where it's just knowing, everything about real estate. When you buy stuff yourself, I'm obsessed with numbers, so I can spit numbers out. I know loan types. I know how to get people that have trouble getting approved, and you just find what people are looking for and you can help them find it. But there's also, most of the time, people don't know what they're looking for. Like, I literally just talked to a guy before I came in here, and he lives in New Iberia. Him and his wife are renting a house for $2,200 a month in New Iberia. He owns his own business. Why haven't you bought? Well, I don't know. Doesn't really know much about it. Talked to him for 5 minutes. Now him and his wife are going to come talk to me next week,
You think they just don't know that they can own a house? Or?
A lot of people don't know. They're not explained the situation. It's easier to rent, is what they think, but it really isn't that hard to purchase a house. It's just a matter of getting in front of them. But again, like, you really have to know what you're talking about. You really need to
build that trust.
Yeah. A lot of people are weary,
Yeah, and I find that a lot of people are more concerned about maybe the possibility of being rejected or saying I can't get a loan, and they don't even try. I mean, I know in our office alone, we've had a lot of, most of our staff have now bought houses, and the ones that haven't, I'm pushing to buy houses. And a lot of times they're surprised by the time they get through it, what they can buy.
Yeah, that's why you need to know how people can get qualified and stuff like that, because, very often, like, oh man, I can't get a loan. Well, you need a 580 credit score to get the same loan that somebody with an 820 credit score can get. But,
right.
Okay, well, why can't you get, I can't get a loan. The normal person says, oh, okay, well, have a good day. Well, why can't you get a loan? Well, my credit's 620. We can get a loan tomorrow and put a house under contract if you're ready.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It really is just.
And I don't need $20,000.
Yeah. Or I need 50 grand down. Well, how much do you have? I have 40. Well, dude, if we can get an RD loan, you can buy a house for 0, or we can go FHA route and you can get you a nice $250,000 house for $10,000 down.
Yeah. And get the sales to pay your closing costs, and you don't have to put much down at all.
You just got to figure out what that no is, and that's what the no is. They think they need this amount of money. They think they need this credit. They think it costs this much a month. But when you educate them and you tell them, hey, this is what it actually is, all of a sudden they're like, holy cow, like, wow, I can buy a house, and then you have a buyer.
It's something that's like, it's like most of the time I feel like people are just they're almost worried, and when you just enlighten them or just guide to them, hey, you can continue to rent. It doesn't bother us, but you can really start to build some wealth if you start owning property.
100%. Yeah, that's the conversation I had with that guy. He owns his own business, and he has 2 businesses actually, and he's talking about how, I'm like, you guys are paying $2,200 a month. You can go buy a house right now for $350,000. For $2,200 a month, and if you pay 10% extra on it, so if he pays $2,500 a month, which he said he can easily afford, then he's gonna have that house paid off in 18, 19 years, and the same house he was renting, now he has that one paid off as another investment. Now at that time, it's probably worth $500,000, and it's paid off instead of just wasting all that money on rent.
Right. Well, let's talk about 2 for a second, because you have around 3,000 leads that you're actually nurturing, and I've actually dug into, and we've sat down, and Ethan, who's our director of agent development, have looked at your leads to make sure that you're actually working them, because a lot of people put leads into their system and they don't work them. But let's talk about this. Is there any way for somebody who is prospecting at this level to not have a system to call back and follow up?
Absolutely not. If you don't have a system to follow up, call back, and take notes on people, you're not gonna. I mean, you can make okay money, but you're not gonna make real good money. Like you said, Ethan would call me in his office, every 2 or 3 months, because everyone here has 5, 6, 700 leads on our platform. Why do you have 3,000? I would just tell Ethan, okay, pick a name. And he would scroll through and he would pick a name and pull them up, and I would be looking at the computer and I would tell him all about that lead.
Yeah.
And, I got to the point where he kind of stopped asking me because, he's beating a dead horse.
Yeah. And I've seen you're very detailed in the notes that you're taking, so that if what their situation is, what their timeline, their motive, their what, and why they're moving, which I think is as important as what they're looking for.
Yeah, when you're dealing with that many people, you need to keep track of where they need to be monthly, their timelines, like you said, if they have a house to sell, all that good stuff comes into.
What was it? It was probably in the fall, in November, when our system went down.
Oh my God.
For like 24 hours, or was it 48 hours maybe? Hey, you were lost for a little bit.
Yeah, I was very angry.
But I mean, I would say to a new agent, either you have a system or you don't, right? And if you don't have, there's no in between. Either you're utilizing it or you're not. And you've done a really, really good job, because you're building trust, and that trust doesn't always happen on that first phone call.
No, it usually never does.
Right.
The trust happens, it can from a phone call, it really can, but at the end of the day, it's multiple phone calls or meeting with them in person. So, whether it's a showing or getting them in the office, preferred getting them in the office, but not everybody's going to come to the office. Once you get in front of them and, you don't want to immediately just throw all kinds of stuff at them, let them look at the house or sit in there, figure out some stuff. But once you provide that value, and it gets to the point where they're like, okay, if we don't use this guy to invest, buy our house, sell our house, or whatever, we're not going to make as much money if we use somebody else. At that point, it's kind of done. That's your client.
Right. Yeah, they know that you built that authority and trust because you've provided them with the value, and you did what you said you were going to do, which is follow up. How many times, have you lost clients by not following up?
No, I've never lost a client by not following up.
No, you're always following up. That's your top priority.
Yeah, I've never.
So let's take us through an average day for Matthew Delcambre. Like, what time do you wake up? Are you working out? Now that you actually have you have a boy now. So.
Yeah, I got a son, Matthew James Delcambre II, and a beautiful wife, Tyler. But
by the way, this all happened at the same time as him closing 138 transactions. So
yes, been real busy, buying properties and setting up Airbnbs, getting married, having a kid, all that takes time. And
so what's an average day look like?
Wake up, as of right now, depends on when the baby wakes me up, usually go to bed around 11 so I can spend some time with my wife and my son when I get home. And he usually wake me up around 6 or 7. I'll kind of get moving. I try to stay home until, like 8:30, 9, and spend some time with them, answering phone calls and texts on the side. And then I'll usually leave, get here around 9:30. At that point, I'm usually prospecting until I either have an appointment or.
Do you wake up and go work out, or you?
No, but I need.
Come straight here.
I need to. But yeah, that's something that it's on my list. I'm just being lazy right now, but I really want to start getting it back into that because that really does set the tone for the day, and it feels a lot better. Being in better shape and all that good stuff. But Tyler Albrecht, are aggravating me every day to go work out, which aggravate might be the wrong word, but that's what good friends are supposed to do. Like, I'm aggravating them to call people and work more. I'm spending all my time working, they're spending their time working too, but they have a better spread of things, whereas for me, kind of at the point where, like, family and trying to make money and get to the point.
How do you get the buy-in from your new wife that, hey, look, this is my job? Because it's not easy, right? You've got to go do inspections. Sometimes you're showing late at night. Sometimes you're showing on the weekends. You're prospecting on the weekends. I know you come in on Saturday and you're calling leads and you're setting appointments for the week. So how do you control that balance?
Well, I have my computer set at home, so I don't really have to come here on the weekends. I can do work from home and try to barbecue. And I bought a really nice house for me and my wife with a pool and stuff. So we try to sit out there and have a good time on the weekends and stuff. But you have to expect those things, and I'm not going to be around as often in the beginning. But at the end of the day, this is all the goal of retiring early so that I can spend my time with my kids and my wife and coach them in baseball and all that good stuff. And
well, what is the goal?
Jim, and I talk about that with my wife too. It's I'm at the goal that I wanted to be when I first started, and like I said when we first started talking, it's like it never ends. It's always a chase of something. So I don't really know where that is, to be honest, right now. That's something I'm trying to figure out in my life. Now that I have a kid and a wife, those are the things I always wanted, and I have rental units, money coming in, and all that. So as far as a goal, honestly, I really don't know right now. So.
Well, I mean, what does success look like or mean to you right now?
Success looks like for me, working 10 hours a week and spending my time with my family and playing golf and just chilling.
Yeah, and I know you spend a lot of time with your dad too. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I love spending your time with my dad. That's who I play golf with. So,
where do y'all play?
Montreal.
Montreal.
Yep. That's our favorite spot for sure. But we'll play anywhere.
You gonna get a house on the golf course soon, or what?
I thought about it before I bought this last one, but I kind of deferred from it because the house that we ended up finding, we loved it so much, and like I said, it has a pool, and it just kind of fit us perfectly. So now I'm gonna probably stay there for about 4 or 5 years and buy a piece of land and start building exactly what I want on a little bit of acreage.
Nice, awesome. Like, what does that look like?
I want a very long driveway on a nice quiet area with a pond out front and a house that I want exactly how I want it, with a shop in the back because I love cars. I want some cool Mustangs and some Supras and some muscle cars and stuff in there.
Well, and you can't forget you're gonna have strollers. You're gonna have Bowie seats.
I got all that.
Trust me.
Yeah, I want to have 3, 4, 5 kids, hopefully. So I'm already ready for the next one. And James is that's what we call my son is James, and he's about 8 weeks old now. So
that's a good name, James.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
My son's named James too. Well, let's talk about what are the next 24 months going to look like for you? I mean, I know 10 years is a big, I know the big vision, but what, in order to get there, what does the next 24 months look like?
Well, I mean, the goal is to, be mostly retired by 35. So it's not really what's going to happen in the next 7, 8 years or 24 months, kind of just about what's going to happen tomorrow for me, to kind of set that up. But, in the next 24 months, I'd like to honestly just keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. So you plan on trying to sell another 200 houses at least?
Yeah.
You're at 138.
Yeah.
You want to do more.
Yeah, of course.
And a lot of people are wondering, okay, there's one thing to prospect and actually, get the appointments, but you kind of touched on it earlier about appointments. And now that you're busy and you're closing 138 transactions, that's a lot of other things that come with that, right? Like closings, inspections, negotiating,
problems,
everything that comes with that. So I know you've got a system for follow-up. You've got a system for prospecting. How are you managing those transactions?
Just I have notes and certain timelines. You have to keep track of all the timelines on all these deals and make sure things are going through correctly. You get things signed properly and they're done in that amount of timeline. Got to make sure the houses are clean with the inspections and all that stuff. It really is never ending. Once you get to the point where you have 15, 20 things under contract, oftentimes it'll take my whole day just dealing with those things, keeping everything together. You have first time home buyers that are freaking out about something that really isn't that big of a deal, and you just kind of have to cool off the situation. Then you do have things that are a big deal. It just depends on the day, really.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I guess where I'm going with that too is you have a system for transactions as well.
Oh yeah.
You're following a process, and you use a transaction coordinator, right?
Yes, absolutely. Christy does so much for me. Like I said, I feel like I'm Batman and she's Alfred in the sky. I'll be driving, do a showing at 7:30 p.m. and then you get 4 texts from 4 different deals on stuff, and you need to take them. Yeah, it's also always something. I'm in my car, voice text to Christy, I need this, and 10 minutes later, it's all sent out, and she really helps me a lot with that for sure.
Well, I know that you can't do this amount of transactions without help.
No.
But I do know a lot of agents, even high producing agents, have a real hard time letting go, and they keep doing those little things that they're really not making a difference. I guess it might have been easier for you because you started that way, but like, how did you let go, and how did you learn to trust your team in order to make sure everything's happening?
Well, there's time. You have a good TC, and they're going to take care of, certain contracts and stuff, so you don't have to keep up with as much. You need to know what's going on. But when you have a good one, you don't have to worry as much. For inspections, some agents go sit in on an inspection and waste 2 hours of their day sitting on the couch in the house while the inspector is there to inspect. You are not. I am not a licensed certified inspector. I know what I'm looking at to an extent. He knows 10 times more about defects and stuff. So there's no point in me going over there and wasting 2 hours of my day while my inspector is going through the house, so that when he's done, he can send me a report with all the pictures and give me a call and tell me everything that's wrong with the house. Same thing, with appraisal. Some agents could spend an hour at an appraisal. You're not going to, I don't know if you ever went to an appraisal, but you're not telling the appraiser anything.
Right.
They don't care. They're going there to look at the house and take.
It actually have a negative effect on the appraiser if you're there and trying to influence them.
Oh yeah, you can aggravate them, and that has happened. Not with me personally, but with a deal I'm working. The agent goes and even tells, I'll argue with their appraiser, and then guess what? The appraiser comes back in low.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a balance. You want to be there to provide value if you can, but if there's no value that you can bring to the table, it doesn't really matter. But when you were talking about inspections too, and I think what's different about the way that you handle inspections and the way that our team handles inspections is different from a normal transaction, because we're not just getting a general inspection. Give me an idea of like all the different inspections that are inspectors that are included inside of your inspection.
Really depends on the deal. If it's a good clean house for a first time buyer, a good, right now I'm using Nick Rabushi. He's fantastic. He's a licensed realtor, so I don't ever have to go to any of the inspections.
And for those people don't know, if you're a licensed realtor inspector, you have a lockbox, and
you have
authorization from the listing agent.
So I have a licensed agent there, so that's why using a licensed inspector is very good. But you want to find a good one. Nick's fantastic. Nick's very detailed, shows me everything we need to see. And, if it's from an investment standpoint, if it's a triplex, quadplex, whatever, even a residential house sometimes, if you're trying to dig down, that price, you'll send Nick out there. Maybe there'll be a problem with the AC and the roof. Now you got to send your roofer out there. You got to send your AC guy out there. Could be plumbing. You got to go send somebody to scope the pipes and all that stuff. And those help your buyers understand what's wrong with the house, how much money it's going to cost. And oftentimes it's a positive effect for us to get a better price.
Right. And so it's not just a general inspection. A lot of times you're sending out a roofer, a foundation guy, a termite. Nick does termite.
Yeah, I'll bring a termite guy with the initial inspection, because to me that's a very important factor. Nick's good with ACs and piping and stuff.
Yeah.
He's not a professional in ACs and piping, so if he sees something, we need to get a guy that's a licensed HVAC guy or a piping company come out here and thoroughly look through this a little bit more.
Yeah, and that all takes a lot of coordination.
Oh yeah.
So how are you handling all that on? Right now, you've got 15 transactions going.
It's good to have good people that you trust that are passionate about their job. They're hungry and they're going to do the right thing and do it in a timely manner. You know, like for roofing, I use Logan Quibido, absolute stud. You know, I can call him right now and tell him, you know, I need a roof looked at. He'll tell me he can be there tomorrow at 9 a.m. If I tell Logan I need it now, if he's busy, he's going to go at 7 p.m. and he's going to get that roofing done for me. You know,
Building relationships with the people and not just randomly picking other people.
yeah, absolutely. I feel like agents have that problem. You know, they're sending roofers out to something they don't even have under contract, or, you know, wasting insurance guys' time getting 5 quotes on houses that they haven't even looked at. You know, stuff like that. For me, you know, when you buy a lot of real estate, you know about what the insurance is going to cost. You know the taxes. You know these things. So for me, if I know where you need to be monthly, I'm going to tell you where this house is going to be at monthly because I already know about where the insurance is at. So we don't need to waste our time getting 5 quotes on 5 houses.
Yeah.
You know, I'm showing some people right now, you know, we're looking around New Iberia area. I know where their note needs to be. If it's one in a location where I know the insurance is going to throw us way above our note, I'll simply tell them, like, we probably don't need to go waste our time looking at that house. It's going to be well above where we're at. The insurance is an extra $2,000 a year, $3,000 a year, you know, stuff like
that. It kind of throws you off. So you kind of avoid a lot of the time wastes.
Yeah.
You kind of have to when you're doing this many transactions.
Yeah. Instead of doing 7 showings, well, 4 of those houses, 2 of them are in a flood zone. They don't want a flood zone. The other 2 are really high insurance. That's going to throw their note $300 a month over where they need to be. There's no point in wasting my time or their time. I'm going to look at those 4 houses. So instead of doing 7 showings, now we're doing 3.
Right. And I do want to get into, we talked about taxes and return on investment. One of your strong points is investing. Mm-hmm. And so for to be able to build trust with investors, you've really got to know what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
And you know, what are the benefits for the tax benefits for somebody? If I was a investor and didn't know I was a first-time investor, what would you tell me why I should be buying an investment property?
The tax breaks is different for everybody, but you know, off of the $1 million, you know, instead of me paying $400,000 or $350,000 to the IRS, I think I only have to pay like $29,000. And so the same person that makes $1 million a year or $500,000 a year, when they bring in 3 because they're paying taxes, my $500,000 makes me $500,000. So it's a substantial difference, you know, and that brings value to guys that are, you know, not necessarily directly in real estate. They're in the oil field, they make really good money, or they're a doctor, they don't know anything about real estate. You know, I'm a guy that you don't need to know anything about real estate. That's fine.
Yeah.
Tell me how much money you're willing to spend, and I'm going to take care of that. We'll get you set up with a property management company. And then all of a sudden, they're building wealth with these assets. They're cash flowing on these investments. And now they're making an extra 30, 40, 50, 100, 200 grand a year because they get to keep that money. It's a phantom income. They call it ghost income because you don't see it. But at the end of the day, the doctor that's making 500 grand a year is now keeping 450 instead of 300.
Yeah. So, you mentioned something a second ago, why should I buy an investment property?
Why should you buy an investment property? Well, it depends on what you're trying to do in the future and how much money you make. There's a lot of different factors that go into it. If you take it from somebody that's, you know, just your average Joe that says, you know, they make decent money, they have their first house, they've been living there for 2 years. Okay, you like the house? Yes, no, whatever, it's fine. You can go buy yourself another house, move into it, and then rent that one out. And you can do that every 2-3 years. And then all of a sudden, 15 years down the line, now you have 6 houses that make you $9,000-$12,000 a month in rental income. They're paying themselves off. You're paying less taxes. And then whenever you're 55, 60, instead of having, you know, whatever you would normally have, you have all of that. And now on the side, you've got $1.5 million in real estate paid off in the dirt. That's making you an extra $10,000+ a month, where you can keep that coming in. You can sell it, you know, sell one house here and there, take $250,000, $300,000 here and there. Whereas if you just sit there and rent, or you just buy one house, you're missing out on that opportunity. Because at the end of the day, when you buy a house for, say, you buy a $220,000 house, building wealth without even knowing it. And if you move, instead of selling that house, if you rent it out and you move to another $220,000 house, well, now you're paying the mortgage on this 220 and you're paying it down. So eventually it's going to be paid off and it'll be worth 260, 270. Well, now you have a renter in here. You're not paying for anything. They're paying for everything. They're paying that house down too. So now you got twice as much happening. You do it 3 times as much, 4 times as much, and so on. You can be aggressive. You can be kind of aggressive, but the fact is just making that move. And it is a risk, everything's a risk, but I would rather risk doing this and have to not really work much when I'm 35, 40 years old than not taking this risk. And now I'm risking working until I'm 65 years old.
Right. Well, and there's 2 different types of investors, right? You've got people like me who I've got a house. I can't go buy a personal residence, but so I guess what I want to talk about is the house hacking. Like if I'm a young, if I'm in my 20s, 30s, like explain what house hacking is.
I have guys like that all the time. And, I make money selling your house, but very often convince, especially younger dudes, to not sell their house. I'm going to still make money. Let's go buy something, but keep that house and rent it out. One of the most recent ones was Alec Martinez, is a good little buddy of mine, but he had his house. He wanted to sell it and move to Port Barry. I'm like, dude, you can rent that house out for $1,900. He didn't believe me. He didn't believe me. I said, just put it up. 2 days later, he's got a renter for $1,900, and he went to buy his house in Port Barry. So now he's paying off this, $220,000 house, and he's making good cash flow on it, and he's living in that house. So this one costs him like $13 a month. He's renting for $19. His new house costs him, $2,000 a month. But if he wants to take that cash flow, now it's only costing him $1,400 a month. So now he's living for about the same, but he owns 2 houses.
Right. And when he's buying a primary residence, it's a different. You don't have to put as much down.
Yeah. There's definitely some avenues, especially if you have a VA loan, or you can do an RD or FHA. You want to utilize that best you can, but it gets to the point where you can't use those anymore. But it's still fine. That's what I tell the people. You use that as much as you can, and you keep saving your money up, and then you get to the point where you have 30, 40, 50 grand, and you're ready to invest. You go get yourself a nice little duplex, or if you make really good money, you can buy something better. But taking that money, cash lose money every year. You have 50 grand sitting in an account, cash loses what, 10%, 8% of its value due to inflation every year. Do something with that money, put it in an investment, a $50,000 down on a $250,000 house, and 10 years or 15 years, if you pay the note off aggressively, which you very well can. It's very easy to do that. People don't know that, but you can pay that note off in 15 years and never really come out of pocket just using that rent. And now it's paid off, and that's $250,000. Or if it goes up in value really well, it might be $350,000, and that's money you wouldn't have, and you didn't really pay anything for it except for that upfront initial down payment.
3.5%, and turning $10,000 into $350,000.
Yeah,
that's basically what you're talking.
And you get cash flow, and you get tax breaks, and you get appreciation. Everyone says cash flow. Cash flow is the least important thing about an investment. You have to have cash flow. It's important so that you have money for the bills and the maintenance. That's what the cash flow is for. The appreciation and the tax breaks, that's where the real money comes in.
Yeah. And out of the 138 houses you sold, how many of them were investments?
Oh, shoot. Generally 40%.
40%. And that's a mixture of single family, duplexes, fourplexes.
Yeah.
Like, what are you usually buying? Because I know you buy houses, but also for your clients.
Anything that's a good deal. I mean,
and how do you find the good deals? I mean, a lot of people out there are probably thinking, well, I'm always looking on the MLS and I can never find a good deal. The cash flow is never there.
You have to know the value of things. When you sell a lot of stuff, you really understand areas and you really know the worth of things. And when you've done, I do flips, but I don't sell my flips. I keep them. You understand where that value is created. One of the most, me and Tyler Albrecht are actually buying one right now. Absolute steal. We both own a lot of properties right around it. Actually sold all the comps around the own thing we're buying. We're getting it for $130. We're putting $0 down, and the bank is giving us $80,000 to buy it and renovate it into a triplex that's going to cost us $2,000 a month, rent out for $4,000 a month, and it's going to be worth $350,000. Those are the type, and it was sitting on the market for a year.
Yes, and nobody saw it.
Nobody saw it, and I've been buying stuff, so I didn't really have time for it. And then I kind of got married and all that stuff, and got past that. And then I got to the point, okay, I'm looking to buy, and I was like, well, they price dropped it from like 180 to 130. Went to the next day, we put it under contract, and there's the numbers on it are amazing, but there's stuff like that everywhere. So, whether it's a single family, multifamily. Recently we actually closed on one yesterday. It went up on the market for 1 hour. Called one of my guys. I said, you need to buy this. He's like, I don't even know that area. I was like, you need to buy this. All right, Matt, put me an offer in. We put it under contract. I would go sit down with him. I said, I own the neighboring property, okay, and I've sold most of the stuff around it. It's worth $275,000 after we renovate it. Let's go see how much it's going to cost. We got it for $135,000. 50 grand, 60 grand to renovate it, right? So now he's got 185, 190, whatever into it, and it's worth $275, and now it's rented out for $2,900 a month. Those are the types of deals that people see and they get scared of, or they don't really see the value there. But had he not bought it, I probably would have bought it myself.
How many times have you seen like somebody buy the wrong thing? Not for you, but they're just buying it. They just didn't know. They didn't have the right information.
Oh, it's too often. I actually have this, and shout out to Kim LaFleur. She gave me a call about a client. She's a super busy lady. She didn't really have time for him, so she referred him to me, and he's my client now. And within like 2 weeks, we get under contract on a really nice quadplex that I told him he needed to buy. And he didn't really, trust me up front, which is normal for somebody that's, an investor and all that stuff. And we go to the inspection and we're talking, and he's like, I build that trust, and him and his wife really kind of keen in, and you can kind of see that turning point where they're like, okay, we really like this guy. And, he's like, look, I just want to let you know, I'm buying another property. It's not with you, but I put it under contract, about a month before I met you. I'm like, I don't care, dude. And no worries. What property is it? Well, he tells me the address. I already knew the property. So I already knew it was a terrible investment. Way overpriced. The numbers on it are terrible. He makes really good money. I don't know how familiar he is with real estate, but the numbers on it they were terrible. So, I'm like, dude, give me your loan information. Like, let me look at this right now. Because he only has a few days of due diligence left, and it's over $1 million. And already, like I said, I already knew it was a terrible investment. We'd run the numbers, and I'm like, just make it make sense, right? If it stays fully rented, you make $300 a month, and you're putting $275,000 down. That's a terrible deal. So then he backs out of the deal. I see that kind of stuff all the time. Agents are just hungry for a check, and they will push somebody to buy something. And it's very, very important to ask your real estate agent, in my opinion, how many properties they own, whether you're an investor or not. Because if you own properties and the loan types and this stuff, you just have a better feel for value of stuff.
How are you running your numbers? What are you using? Are you using the investment calculator? Or?
Yeah, I used to use the investment calculator, but it's got to the point where it's kind of all in my head at this point. And you can tell me your price, your interest rate, your amort, and the location.
Expenses.
Yeah, and I can pull the insurance, and all that good stuff, and I'll have your numbers and can tell you whether or not, it's going to be a good investment. You run the numbers off the worst case scenario, and worst case scenario, if it looks good, then it's probably a pretty good investment.
Yeah. And so basically I see it too. I mean, they can make a lot of big mistakes that can be very costly easily if you just miss one thing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you're keeping all of your flips as rentals. I know you do work for people that do buy and then flip.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you try to flip them?
Well, Jim, I am buying real estate to build wealth, to build a passive income, and to not pay taxes. When you flip and sell that real estate, you're going to get hit with some capital gains taxes, and you're also losing a tax break. You buy a property for 200 grand, put 20 grand into it, sells for 3, you make 80 grand, you're going to pay 35% on that. Whereas if I buy that property for 200 and I put 20 grand into it, now it's worth 3, well, I owe 200 on it. So now I can depreciate what it's worth. So now it's worth, let's say 300, right? Now I can depreciate that 3. also am going to rent it out, so it's going to cash flow for me, and they're going to pay that loan off. And if I want that 80 grand, all I have to do is go get a line of credit, and line of credit's tax free. So I can get the same amount of money, build way more wealth, avoid taxes, all for the same thing, just by keeping the property and, kind of knowing what you're doing. Some guys they don't care. They're just going to flip online. I do have clients like that. It is what it is. It's a preference. But
well, and I've seen too, a lot of people, especially your age, when they do buy investment properties, they because they're young and they have more time, that they want to do a lot of the work themselves, or they want to manage their property. Why did you choose to use a property management company and not do all the work?
Delegating is a big thing, and you and I talked about that, is being able to delegate things that you can trust somebody else to take care of. It gets to the point where I'm really busy selling and buying houses and taking care of these clients. So if I have to manage all of my rentals and do all of this stuff, it's taking time away from the amount of money I'm making. It's taking time away from me being able to take care of my clients properly. So it gets to the point to where you have to make that transfer.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I see people all the time. Well, I want to buy a bunch of rental properties and I'm going to manage it and I'm going to do all the work. Well, yeah, you can make a little bit more money, but how much money can you make by working and prospecting versus doing a $15 job by painting a rental, right?
Yeah, exactly. If I'm making, $300 an hour right now selling houses, why am I going to go spend 4 hours trying to fix a washing machine, or 2 hours trying to fix a washing machine that then I'm not going to fix right, and then I'm going to still pay somebody to go do it? I'll pay the $200 to get some cat over there that knows what he's doing to just fix it and be done. And that kind of goes back to the cash flow thing I was telling you about. I want the cash flow for the maintenance. I want the cash flow for paying my bills and being able to stack up extra money so that when those maintenance things do come, it's coming out of a different bank account. It's an LLC. It almost feels like it's not my money. It's my money, but it's not really.
It's like a little escrow account.
It's $1,000 to fix the 2 holes in the wall and mess with the AC, and it comes out of that account. I'm not really paying for it, and it just makes it a lot easier going about it.
It's funny you said you don't spend time fixing washing machines. I tried to fix 2 washing machines last weekend.
And how much
I took them all apart. I was like, I'm going to fix this thing. It's a Maytag. I don't want to get rid of it as an old one. And I spent 5 hours and they both still broke it. I ended up putting them at the street, but and my wife is like you. She's like, what? I mean, can't you afford to get somebody to just buy another one? I was like, yeah, it's not about that. It's like, I want to fix it.
Yeah.
And of course I wasted my whole Saturday.
That's how my dad is too.
It's
always everything. You got to do it yourself. And, I guess that's a little bit,
But I learned that lesson too with property. Like the worst things that I've done is sell some of my properties because I was managing them and it just got too much and I was too busy doing it. So, I definitely am a big believer at you really focusing on what your time is worth, because if you're spending time doing those type of things, it's not just that time or the cost that you're saving, it's that opportunity cost. Like how much more money could you have made by not doing that,
100%.
And getting out there and engaging, which brings us all back to none of this really happens without the engagement, right? You're building the trust, you're building authority through actual follow-up and actually, providing those people with actual value on whether it's an investment or a house, right? How many people do you think you talk to on a normal day?
I mean, it really varies on if I have time to make cold calls, but new people or just people.
Yeah, well, let's talk about not new people, just like how many follow-up calls and how many people are you actually connecting with on a daily basis? I know you had, when we first start and when you get to this point, you're not keeping track as much, but you do track.
No, I really don't track anymore.
Well, you used to.
Yeah.
And you used to have really close, really hard numbers, but now it's just happening so much. You built that pipeline, so now it's just happening, right?
Yeah, and that goes back to what I had said earlier, the tracking and all that is really good in my opinion, if you want to be average, because everyone has their goal, and most of the time they're not even going to hit it and they'll quit, but it gives you a timeline to quit. I can quit when I get to that, right. Whereas if you don't have a goal and you're just hungry and you just want to create a business and you want to create something, it's going and going and going, and it's like, okay, shit, I'm tired, I'm going home.
Right.
It gets to that point, but like I said, it is good to keep track of all those things. In your aspect of things, it's really important to know how many people do I need to call.
Right.
How many people do I need to talk to? How many appointments do I need to set to get X, X, and X? And those are really important things to know, in my opinion, up front. But if you're actually going to hustle and you're actually going to put the work in and you're just going to go, that stuff really does not matter, because then it doesn't matter what you hit, doesn't matter if you get less, it doesn't matter if you get more, and the time you put in, that's where it's at.
Well, yeah, once you get to the level where you've got so many deals and you don't have to worry about it. But I do know that when you want more pendings, you get to the office and you start calling.
Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely no doubt. Yeah,
I wanted to go back to 24 months. I mean, when you first came here, how much did you believe us what we said?
Man, I don't know if I talked about this the first time, but I almost quit. It was like my first or second day, I came and tried to negotiate my commission with you off the jump, and you gave me a number to hit, and you told me you're not gonna hit that, and you gave me a year to hit it, and I think I hit it in like 3 months, and then but prior to that, I was probably here for like 3 weeks, and at that point, I was just in training, just kind of started talking to people and stuff, don't know what I'm talking about, and I asked Ethan, the associate broker, like, if I'm a good agent, and I really work hard, how much money can I make? And Ethan's like, man, like, our top agents their first year, might bring in, 50, 60, maybe even $75,000. And that almost killed it for me, because, I'm working 18, 20 hours a day, and I feel like I'm a pretty smart individual, so I'm worth more than that, and, I was just down about it, and my dad noticed, and he's like, what's going on with you? I was like, man, I think I might have to find something else to do. I'm thinking about quitting the real estate. My boss just told me, like, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm gonna make, $70,000. And that was demoralizing for me.
First 8 months after training.
Well, including that, I'm like, but, in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to put in so much time that it's just not fair to me. And
so what did he say?
He was mad. That was a lot of money for somebody who first making out of college and all that stuff. His first job, he was making $4 an hour and all that stuff. And my dad's a real big hustler, and he beat it out. And he's super successful now after working super, super hard for so long. He tells me now that if he was my age, he would have got into real estate, because he had to do what he was doing for 20 years to make the kind of money that I am now.
And so he told you to put your suspenders on and get back out there?
Yep. And then, man, within probably a week after, kind of pouting and moping, I got, like 2 listings, and I got 1 under contract, and then the 2 listings went under contract, and, it's $30,000 I'm going to make, in the next month. And I'm like, oh, that's a lot more that I can make happen than $70,000. And I stuck with it, and it just started turning over from there.
Well, at the time you were working 7 days a week.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, 7 days a week, 18, 20 hours a day is I feel like, in my opinion, worth more than, 65, 70 grand a year.
And so, looking back, like, at that moment, a lot of people go through that. What would you tell yourself?
Shut the hell up and put your head down and just get it done, because it is worth it. Just getting over that first hump. Sometimes it takes longer to get over that.
And everybody gets over that hump, that if they stick with it, they get over it. Eventually they give in. Either they do what we tell them to do, or they give up.
Yep.
But and I was talking to Tommy about this too. We always underestimate what we can do in 24 months and overestimate what we can do in 6 months. So it's definitely one of the things that, you have to grind it out. It's
Oh, yeah.
not going to be easy,
Oh, yeah.
right?
It's how to
Like this was not a easy path. I mean, what we do every day is easy, but it's picking up the phone is not really hard, but it's the consistency and the discipline, right?
Yeah, I mean, you call 400 people and you don't set one appointment. It's very easy the next day to say, man,
It doesn't work.
and then that's the day where you call 40 people and you have 7 appointments.
Yeah.
It's
funny that you said that, because I hear that all the time. People say, well, Jim, I called 1,000 people and I talked to, 100 people and I didn't get any closings. Well, what would you tell somebody like that?
Give me 1 second. You want one?
No, I'm good.
I mean, you just got to keep calling. It is an aspect of, like I said, it's so important to be an expert. You're a first-time home buyer, you don't have to be as much of an expert, but it surely does help people that are more seasoned and they know a little bit about real estate, or they think they do, or an investor or something like that. You just have to know what you're talking about, and if you get on the phone with, I sit next to people and, I hear them on the phone, they might call 1,000 people and not set one appointment. And then, I could call those same 1,000 people and, set 100. But
yeah,
it's just the only way to get good at it is to do it and to get told no and to fail and to mess up and to learn from those failures and to not repeat them and to try to expand off of those failures to avoid other similar types of failures.
Yeah. So Matt, congratulations on everything that you've accomplished in the last 24 months, not just business wise, but also personally. I mean, congratulations on getting married. Congratulations on your boy. Congratulations on the success. And, it's been 24 months and you've definitely condensed a 10-year career into 24 months. And no one else has produced $32 million, over $1 million worth of commission in their first 24 months. I want to congratulate you.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing what you can do in the next 12 months. And we're going to do this again in 12 months to see where you're at.
That sounds good to me.
Congratulations, brother.
Thanks.